Big topics, big stories, and big news. The Big Rich Show. It happens here. And welcome to the Big Rich Show, guys. Tonight, I got a very special guest, Brian James Gage. He's an author. He's also an entrepreneur, kind of like Donald Trump. Had something to do with that vape world, you know. And believe it or not, this man can play the piano. And I believe he's actually even in school right now to try and become the next Mozart. How you doing, Brian? It's good to have you on the show. I lost you.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Hey, there's this 10 fingers, 10 toes. How you doing tonight? It's great to have you on the show, man.
I appreciate that. I'm doing quite well considering. I woke up with a little bit of a snuffle this morning. Right. And so the corona paranoia, I'm like, oh, this is it. But I don't leave the house. So there's no feasible way that I get coronavirus. If I get coronavirus, all y'all are screwed. That's all I'm saying.
I'm glad to know that. In fact, he does not leave his house. So if he got it, it was somebody slipping him dinner under the door, maybe.
Yeah, exactly right. It's my delivery guys. I wash my hands immediately after I got Indian food the other night. What else? I think yesterday was a cheeseburger, of course. Wow. But the second I get those packages, I'm hand washing immediately.
Right. So you guys might be wondering, from the intro, why is he here with us tonight? He's here because he's come out with a new book. And I'm telling you what, folks, if you enjoyed the teaser that we played on the way in, then you, like myself, could see this being a movie. Do you want to talk a little bit about the book?
Of course. I appreciate that. And so it's called the Nosferatu Conspiracy. It's a 3-book series. It's actually a 6-book series. The first 3 books are under the Nosferatu Conspiracy banner. The first book is called The Sleepwalker. The second book is called The Sommelier. And not to be an elitist snob, but for anybody that doesn't know what a sommelier is, it's a French wine steward, or a wine, not French, but it's the French word for a wine, somebody who knows a lot about wines. And the third book is called The White Widow.
Okay.
And so essentially what I did is I took World War I and the fall of the Romanov dynasty for book one, specifically the story of Rasputin. And because I don't know if you're familiar with the actual death of Rasputin.
Not personally.
It's super compelling. So he had an incredible influence over the Romanov dynasty because he was a holy man. He showed up barefoot and drunk in St. Petersburg one day and almost took over the entire country because they believed that he could heal their hemophiliac son. So he was starting to call the shots on Russia's incursion into, World War I, and the warmongers, some of the more conservative, war hawkish people were like, we got to get this Rasputin guy away from the Tsar Nicholas's ear. So they murdered him. And when they murdered him, they first fed him, I think the accounts varies upon the one that I'm going with is what I know. 3 glasses of wine and about six little cakes laced with cyanide. And he didn't die. So they came down and they beat him, and then they, I believe they hung him or they put a rope around his neck and choked him out or something like that. He did not die. They then shot him in the chest twice, point blank. He fell on the ground, rose up and attacked his gunman, ran out of the house. They shot him again in the back. He fell down and they clubbed him into submission. They then tied his hands behind his back, cut a hole in the icy Never River and drowned him. When they recovered his body 3 days later, the reports state that he had broken free his bindings and his fingernails showed signs that he tried to claw his way through the ice.
Oh my gosh.
So now that could just be all mythology. This was in 1916, so who knows? But it's an outrageously compelling story. Because another point in Rasputin's history was when he went back to his hometown after he was in with the aristocracy, he was attacked by a woman who cut his stomach open with a big knife. He survived that as well.
Oh, wow.
So Rasputin's definitely a guy that couldn't die. So I took that mythology and said, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a conspiracy around this that ties back to the Crusades and Vlad the Impaler and make it about the sense that Rasputin is trying to bring about this vampire apocalypse. And then it all sort of ties into there. So the second book is about the quest for Vlad the Impaler's blood. There's a bottle of blood left behind, and whoever can control that can essentially reincarnate Dracula. And the Kaiser is trying to do this to take over the world, but it also ties into Elizabeth Bathory, who was a Hungarian land baroness who was also one of the world's first serial killers. She would murder and eat children and bathe in their blood. And then the third book is sort of the Return of the King, all out orc war, with all these demons and vampires and witches. But at the same rate, the part of the book that I think, or the series that I find compelling, is that they tried to keep the supernatural they call it supernatural technology that they're trying to keep it hidden from the real reason a lot of these things are happening. And then the prequel series is called, am I breaking up?
Just right there towards the end when you were talking right about, you said all out war. And folks realize that we're dealing with this coronavirus. Everyone's online right now. Nobody's at work. We're kind of at peak hours for the internet for everyone. And Brian James Gage is on the West Coast in LA. And so you got to realize their internet, our internet here, is kind of bogged down at times during this interview, but we're going to do our best to make it through it tonight. And we're
going to do our best.
Yeah, we're going to do it. And some of the parts might be a lot more edited than normal, but this is very intriguing. And I'm just sitting here like with my mouth down. So if you want to continue, I know you started breaking up right around the part with the all-out war, and then you had started speaking on that was the third book, right?
Yeah, the third book. And then I'm working on a prequel series, which will not be called the Nosferatu Conspiracy. The current tagline, or the current title for that series, is called Inferno of the Witch.
Okay.
And it's about the Crusades and the rise of Vlad the Impaler. So that ties into the Knights Templar and the Order of the Dragon. that book is about, it has a lot to do with the Lesser Key of Solomon and the demons of Solomon, like Baal, President Baal, and all of the demons that come out of that, and working with the Catholic Church to essentially eradicate these demons. But then the Catholic Church doesn't like, the Order of the Dragon is essentially very powerful archangels who are also witches, but they work for good. But the Catholic Church doesn't like them because they're perceived as more powerful than the Pope. So that there's going to be a twist on the Crusades, that it's actually not Islam versus Christianity, but it's actually Islam and Christianity versus people with supernatural powers.
Nice.
And I'm sure there's going to be a fat issue on my head at some point, and I'll probably be banished from Catholicism. I think that narrative is going to be challenging not to encroach on some of that.
Right. We had lost that audio right there describing the Catholicism and you getting your webos kicked in from the church probably. But I think we were kind of getting the idea. Sorry, we're trying, like I said, we're going to try and make it through this. But man, these sound, like I said, these sound so amazing. These ideas that you've got laid out for the prequels, and even with the first three, I could just vivid. It's time, folks. We need a new vampire movie out that has more than just one. And man, I can't wait to get my hands on a copy of the book.
Man, you got an author copy coming your way for sure. Well, one of the things that I'm trying to achieve with this narrative specifically is I really don't like the way that vampires, because I ever since I saw Fright Night in 1985, I think, I've been, and it's been The Lost Boys on top of that. I've been really obsessed with vampires in general, and Bram Stoker's Dracula is one of my favorite novels of all time as well. I don't like how vampires have devolved into sort of sexy teeny bopper romance lovers. They're not scary. And their initial inception, specifically if you look at some specifically Slavic vampire lore, you know, they would, for example, there is a Slavic vampire in lore, they're called Ustrel. And the Ustrel were so gross and they were timid vampires, so they would dig up the freshly dead and drink the blood of people who were just recently buried. They wouldn't attack humans. Oh, wow. So I find that pretty terrifying as a not only so much, I mean, obviously if you're a living person, you don't have to worry about it, but if you happen to be an Ustrel, think about the torturous existence you live of having to dig up dead people and consume their blood before it turned. Sure. That to me that's horror, right? So what I tried to do was, there's different tiers of vampires in this book. There's Ustrel, there's Vampire, which are human vampires. There's vampiric witches, who are witches and warlocks that use magic in addition to being vampires. And then there are what are called the Nosferatu. And the Nosferatu are worshipped by the rest of the vampires in this, and I guess you call it an anthology at this point, because of their savagery and almost their inability to be killed. Right. So they're looked at as gods of, the book opens with, you see a quote from Vlad the Impaler, and then it says, the Holy Bible of the Living Vampiric Witch. So he has written, after his conversion to vampirism and his fall from, he was a good warlock in his time, but he became a evil vampire who summoned these Nosferatu from a netherworld to use them as his army of darkness. And their plot is that vampires are the rightful might, the pinnacle of what you can be as an existence as a vampire, so they use humans as their bloodstock. And that's essentially what Rasputin is trying to achieve in the opening of this series.
Nice. That's amazing. And now, I want you guys to know too, fans, if you're the ones that are listening, this is not his first attempt at publishing. He is a published author. So you have material out there. That's correct, right?
I do. Yeah, I've been published for 3 satire books and 1 children's book. I think it's funny. I have a children's book called The Saddest Little Robot, which is obviously about a sad little robot. And so to see this departure, because it's a really cute little book about a sad robot. And then this book, this is actually what sort of got me kicked out of being a traditionally published author, because I was working with 3 agents at the time. And when they read the first draft of this Nosferatu conspiracy, they were like, "Nuh-uh, no one is publishing this thing, dude. Like, you have gone way too far. And specifically, it's too graphic, it's too gruesome. I mean, everyone, there's children murders, there's rapes or attempted rapes. There's just there's a scene where one woman gets her jaw ripped off her face entirely and chokes on her own blood. And what's weird is I'm actually quite sensitive to things that are artificially gory, even like cartoon gore. I'll be like, ugh, it's not for me. So to see when I wrote this book, and you even see it in some of the reviews, like one of the reviewers put a mature content warning on, like, hey, this is a great gruesome book, parentheses, due to some extremely graphic and mature content, readers be warned. And I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Right. But the literati, the mainstream people that I was working with, they were just like, no one's publishing this. And I have a tendency, we even got a review in last week from Kirkus Reviews, which is about as mainstream as you can get. And they gave it a very positive review, but we didn't get a starred Kirkus review. If you read the book, there's actually a part she's like, although some of the violence in the book slides into poor taste, by and large, it's a really great book. And I don't think it is. If you look at the historical context, right? All right, so it's fiction, but a lot of the stuff, it's based upon death cults. It's based upon ritual human sacrifice. These things exist, and I feel that they should be shown for exactly what they are, because they're crimes against humanity. And I think I don't think that there's no way to be subtle. I want people to see the violence and experience it, right? And if you look at historically, the Romanov children, these were children, right? I think anywhere from the area of 5 to 12 years of age.
Right.
The Bolsheviks took them into a basement, little kids, and shot them all to death point blank. Now, you want to talk about violence being in poor taste, let's have that conversation. But that's real. That happened to these poor little kids. And, the Tsar Nicholas and Alexander, same, shot point blank to death in a basement. So that harrowing reality, I consider this to be more reality fiction than anything. So when I write a violent scene, I'm not going to pull any punches whatsoever. I'm going to show you that violence for exactly what it is.
Right.
And I think, poor taste would be over talking about the guts and his intestines, the bile got into the mouth or whatever. Like, that could be poor taste. So I don't go that far. But if somebody is disemboweled in my book, I'm going to describe exactly what his intestines look like on the ground. You know what I mean? So.
Well, man, I tip my hat to you, man, taking this.
Oh, thank you so much.
And running with it on your own. When people told you, no, this will never get published, you're like, yes, it will, and I'm going to do it on my own. So that alone,
Well, I appreciate that. And I'm here to hopefully encourage and inspire, if I can, and support other people in doing that, because it's a new world. And one of the things that I've been very fortunate about is, and why it's said, this was shelved in 2008. I'm like, I've been told by all the resources that I have, because you gain these, it's not easy to get agents and editors and stuff who are going to pay attention to you with these larger presses. And I'd reached that point in my career. And then suddenly I was just told, like, either you write something else or you're done. And so I just put the book away. I thought maybe I took it too far, and it just kept coming back. It was sitting on my shelf, this huge manuscript, and I kept reading it. I'm like, I feel this is like a good story. It kept coming back. It was like The Revenant. It just kept coming back.
Right.
And so finally, self-publishing technology, 10 years ago wasn't quite what it is today. And then I made a New Year's resolution in 2019. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to honor this work and I'm going to get it out there into the world. And then I contacted a couple friends and he's like, well, call this agent, call this editor. I'm like, oh, no, I got to go. Then I'm going to take 4 months to read the book and they're going to tell me it's too gross or too gruesome, or I went too far, which I probably did. But I'm not into it. And then I started, wait, I'm a business guy. I'm an entrepreneur. I now have the opportunity to sell something I actually give a shit about, which is my writing. So maybe it's time, because I don't actually consider this work to be self-published, although it is. I started my own imprint. So I'm using this as a concept to learn about the technology and how all of the different means of publicity and promotion work. To like, this is my new entrepreneurial endeavor, is essentially starting a publishing house. Whether that comes to fruition, maybe I don't like it, maybe it's too difficult to do on my own, I don't know yet, but I'm in the discovery phase of what this can or cannot be, and
I love it.
You kind of.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying it's amazing. I love it. Anything independent. This is the wave of the future, man.
It is.
It's the way we're going to get voices that need to be heard or stories that should be told out to the masses. We can do this, and as long as we stay together independently, and support each other and lift each other up. It's kind of what I've done. I've got a little group of people in the podcast world. Mike, and we do that. I lift him up, he lifts me up, and now you're a part of that family. And
shucks,
the list is long. Everyone that comes on here that's doing something independent, we lift each other up, man, and we get that word out there. And you know what? That's where it's going. And music, movies, entertainment, writing, podcasts. You don't have to have $1 million and go into someone's office and beg them have your own show now.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of it. I'm not an ego person, but everybody has egos. If somebody tells you they don't have an ego, they're not telling you the truth. But I try to keep my ego in check. I'm just a very ambitious person, and I also don't listen to anything anybody tells me. Right? If they're like, Brian, if you press button A, it's going to give you a shock. I'll be like, well, now I got to go press button A to see if that's true. So it's a little bit I guess what I'm trying to get across is that I think the ability to take control of your own creative destiny, there's a new reality that's unfolding. So you have to support people, and because 10, 15 years from now, you could be the guy, right? People could too, because you're already growing a following. You're already doing a lot of the technology, but, in the sense of like, I could be talking to the next Joe Rogan right now.
Right.
You can't say who's not going to make it. The thing that I guess is the only thing that frustrates me as an author is if I were a filmmaker or a musician, and I was doing things independently, and you make a great film independently, what an auteur, what an amazing creative genius. If you do that as an author, but it's just self-published, like there's still a little bit of a stigma in self-publishing that sadly is sort of deserved due to people. Look, if you're going to do anything, regardless of what it is, do it to the highest professional standards possible. And so my only problem with other self-published authors, and I'm willing to lend a hand, I'm willing to promote other authors, etc. That said, if you show up with some bullshit cover that was clearly made by your 15-year-old who just learned Photoshop, you're not ready to be in the league. Because if we're going to go at mainstream media and say, look, we're independent voices, we're independent artists, and we deserve to be taken seriously, the only way that works is if you use the same tools and resources that those people that are trying to keep you away from it are using, right? So that's why I say hire a development editor, hire a copy editor, hire a cover designer. If you're not doing those things, if you're not going to even take the time to copy edit your book properly, because there's what you think you wrote, and then there's what you really wrote. And you're going to read those texts over and over again. I mean, this novel's been in my collective or my unconscious for years, and I still, even up to the last point I'm working with the copy editor, she's still finding typos that I just don't see any. It's invisible to me.
Right.
So I think that either you're going to take the levels of professionalism and do it as the main quote mainstream is doing it, or you're going to stay in the minor leagues, and as well you should.
Right. And you know what? I agree 100% with you, because we do, and when I say we, hosts like myself, you will come across the people that can hit home runs and are doing it properly, and you come across the guys that shouldn't even be trying to take a swing at the ball.
Right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? That's just what you described. Yeah, you can have somebody that's like, oh yeah, I'm self-published, I've got 6 books out. Really? Okay. And then you go and you take a look at one of them, and you're like, oh, okay, I see why you got 6 out in 2 years.
Yeah, it's true, man.
And so that does, and I'm not trying to be the bad guy here, but what I'm saying is that hurts the independent movement.
Absolutely.
Because now that rock is in the basket along with yours. And
absolutely right.
Sorting through it, they're like, and then they might pass by yours.
Right. So, well, I was talking when I was on Mike's show, I was saying, one of the reasons why the big 5 or traditional publishing works is because every single book that comes across their purview, they've got editors to pay, they've got cover designers to pay, they've got state income tax to pay, they've got all this money that needs to be accounted for. The only way they actually pay for those things is by producing quality work that responds to the people. Now, you could say they have a lockdown on distribution and they're going to sell anyway, because I've read some really shitty traditionally published books.
Yeah.
And if anything, that should give a confidence to an independent author if you want to be traditionally published, but you're reaching a lot of pushback. Look, the thing that you have to sort of understand, and the cold reality of the world, is no one really gives a shit about you, right? Especially if you haven't done something before. To convince someone that you're valid and your work has value, the level of heavy lifting that you have to do, unless you come across a very visionary person. There are those people out there. There's talent scouts, there's book scouts, there's probably podcast scouts, marketing people.
Right.
That can take what you're doing and say, yo, I've got way better resources that you're working with, but I can recognize that you've got what it takes to be that, right? And a lot of my frustration with my career is back when I was I had meetings with DreamWorks. I had a behind the scenes tour of Henson Productions. They wanted to do the Saddest Little Robot. That never came to fruition. But I was getting a lot of interest in my work from production companies. Like even Robert Evans, of all people, his people reached out for one of my books, and I thought that was really bizarre. And a lot of where it is, I've realized I can only take myself so far.
Right.
And I'm going to keep at it. I'm a persistent little mouse. If anything, I just put my head down and keep. What's the superhero guy? And I think it's the Avengers that runs through the walls.
Juggernaut? No, is that...
Yeah, I'm like Juggernaut. I'm just going to keep on going. Right? But what would help me is to meet. There is someone I know out there that could look at what I'm doing and say, you know what? I reckon, like you said, this should be a movie. I appreciate that, and it really pleases me. And I take it as a great compliment that you recognize that, because you seem to be someone who has, you're a bit of a tastemaker yourself.
Oh,
so I need that. I need you who works at Netflix, right? Who recognizes this is something and can get it. I can't do that myself. I need that visionary person, that maven that's out there cutting these deals. So a lot of people who don't make it in the world is because they never met that person.
Right.
So, but you could still have I love what I do. This book project has been probably one of my most favorite things I've ever done in my life. I've enjoyed it amply more than my experience in traditional publishing. And hilariously enough, on launch, I have sold about 5 times the amount of books that I ever sold traditionally. In the same amount, like when my previous traditionally published books launched. And by the way, they were in bookstores. My current novel is not set up through Ingram Spark currently to be distributed through libraries, bookstores, etc. And if I look at the numbers on launch of my first 4 books versus this book, 4 to 5 times more books sold in 3 weeks than those books. So I'm hoping that means that there's something here.
Yeah, no, there definitely is.
Maybe I wake up to.
There definitely is. We're getting a little bit of break up there. You froze, but no, there's definitely something to this, and it's been a long time coming. I believe for something. I mean, to me, it just feels so perfect. Vampires, everyone loves them. You're bringing true history into this. Everyone loves that era of time because it was just on the edge of technology starting to boom. Still had that, there could be a sword fight in there. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, it's funny if hold on, let me take a quick. I'm gonna grab something really quick.
Great interview, guys. I hate that we're having technical issues, but I'm going to try and get this edited.
So you were saying about technology. It's funny because with the first draft, there's an instance where characters are using flashlights, and one of the editors was like, why is this character using a flashlight? I'm like, well, because not only did they exist then, just barely, but that exact model is a collectible flash. Like if you find anything in the book, I've researched them. It talks about a day glow pistol flashlight, which was a flashlight shaped like a gun, and if you pulled the trigger, it would come on. Oh, and that's legit. It's a 1915 antique flashlight. So I did a lot of research. But you're talking about swords. These recently came to me because I know this is going to look really weird. These are called scimitars, right? And the reason why I got them is because in the Sommelier, the second book in the series, these play a massive role in the narrative. So you're going to see tank warfare, but you're also going to see, like, if you think lightsabers are dangerous, just you wait till you see what these can really do in the book.
Wow, I love it.
I feel like I could give you a hint. Let me see. They're called demon blades in the book, and only immortals can wield them. That's all. That's all you get.
Demon blades and only immortals.
I just think it's funny because when I'm the reason why only immortals can wield them. But the funny thing is, because the reason why I bought these specifically is I'm putting together a promo for the second book, and I want to see if I could do the visual effect of what these will be capable of in the narrative.
All right.
So I was trying to practice on how I would tell an actor to unsheath them, and I was doing it in front of my mirror, which is right in front of a window. I have big windows that face another building. And so I'm doing this over and over, and I'm like, I guess that would be a cool pose, whatever. And I look out, and there's like 3 people across the way just watching me. And I'm like, oh, great. Now that my neighbors all think that I'm some sort of, cosplay Lord of the Rings geek, which is, other than the cosplay, I do love Lord of the Rings. Yeah. But I'm very excited about this idea.
Right.
With the demon blades.
Oh, man, I can't wait. I have a scimitar. It's probably only about this big, but it's all onyx rock.
Oh, wow. Onyx is one of my favorite stones.
Yeah, and and it's laying over here, but I keep that. I love collecting gems and stones, and we're breaking.
What's your favorite? I'm interestingly enough, I'm not a materialistic person, but gemstones. Like, I feel like I could maybe, if I ever came into power or something, I could be corrupted by gemstones,
I love them.
Specifically rubies and emeralds. When I see big rubies and emeralds in real life, they just mesmerize me.
Well, the two for me would be emeralds and sapphires. I just love blues.
Oh, I love a sapphire, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen uncut gems?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I've seen a few. I mean, pictures, never in my hand.
Oh, no. I'm talking about the Adam Sandler movie, Uncut Gems.
No, I have not.
I'll tell you what. I watched it last evening. I've never described a film as frenetic before. I've never seen such a frenetic film. It's just from the moment it starts, all I'm saying is take an aspirin before you, as it be that you start feeling for this character is relatively intense.
Okay. I tried to get to listen to that. Most of it was broken up. But I think what I heard from it, and I will pass this on, is if you're going to watch this movie, you recommend it, but take an aspirin beforehand.
Yeah, a blood thinner of some sort.
It's going to give you a headache and make your blood boil. So.
Yeah, it's a really it's pure anxiety from start to finish.
Wow. And the name of that was Uncut Gems?
Uncut Gems. And interestingly enough, it stars Adam Sandler, who like destroys it in his, I guess, I guess he did Punch Drunk Love, which was sort of dramatic, but this is his first real, like he's acting. He's not being a comedic goof guy.
Right.
And he just nailed the role. I couldn't believe it was Adam Sandler.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen him play some non-funny roles too, where he's acting and he's not being stupid. And then he puts his heart into it. It's wild seeing him be normal. Or
maybe, I love people that give their all, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I'm trying to check the time here. Oh, man. We're at that time.
Uh-oh. What do we got?
Mr. Gage, we got to bring you in, man. Everyone that comes on the Big Rich Show. The Gauntlet of Five.
Oh, yeah. Am I ready for the Gauntlet of Five?
I hope so, man. I think you got this.
You think I got it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. I'm ready.
Remember, these are yes/no questions. Possibly or maybes are acceptable, or you can just tell me to pass. And at the end of the 5, you'll have a chance, if you would like, you can maybe elaborate on one of your answers or two.
Because I'll talk your ear off, so you gotta rein me in.
Okay, I got it, brother. All right. So the first one, I'm gonna make this simple, man. Bigfoot, yes or no? Oh, he froze right on the first question. We're going to have to wait. We'll start him over on that when I get him back.
I think we're frozen real bad.
Are you there? Testing, 1, 2. We're going to see if he comes back. Hold on, folks. There he is.
I'm back.
All right, we're back. All right, yeah, I can edit that in. All right, so we'll go. Yeah, you dropped. I was like, I think he's going to drop this time.
Yeah, it just all shut down, and I got really sad.
Yeah, I did too. All right, it's fine. All right, so we'll start here. Bigfoot, yes or no?
No, sorry.
No, that's fine. Aliens, do they exist?
They do.
Okay, all right. Have we been to the moon?
We have.
Okay. Let me think of another good one. All right, here's one for you. Do ancient or hybrid animals or creatures from the past, do they live or could they possibly still exist now? And I'm talking about Nephilim, giants, centaurs, minotaurs, things of that sort.
Like griffins?
Mermaids. Did these things exist or possibly, or was just all lore?
Lore.
Okay, all right. And we're going to take it with a funny one here. You know, I know some people take it super seriously, but is the Earth a globe? Is it flat? Or as Neil Tyson deGrasse, I forget which way it goes, it's pear-shaped.
I would say it's absolutely round, whether it's pear-shaped, if that's what the scientist, I veer with the scientists on that.
Okay, absolutely. That's a good one. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, I think was that 5 guys?
I think it might have been 4. Maybe. I don't want to cheat you.
All right. So we'll do this with the last question coming in tonight. Has it, in this time when they say, if I had somebody on my show and you believed in aliens, have we had a space force prior to the one that we just implemented now? Do we know more about our solar system than they let on?
I would veer toward yes on that, just to hide. I don't. That's a lot of my problem with conspiracy theories. For example, the flat Earth theory. I don't really see, like, follow the money, right?
Right.
Who's profiting off of, hey, you know how the Earth is flat? What if we convinced everyone it was actually round? Yes, of course, because then we could sell all the globes to all the schools. They're way more profitable than maps, don't you agree? Like, it doesn't seem like a conspiracy worth, because if the Earth is flat, fine, who cares, right? If the Earth is round, which I believe that it is, that's cool too. Because if the Earth were flat, NASA still needs to go up and put the satellites up there, and it just doesn't actually make much sense to me. As to the same thing with the moon landing. Like, if they launch the rocket, which everybody agrees, and that's the most expensive part, right, is getting the fuel and the launch. Once you're in space, that's kind of free at that point in time. So if we're going to launch the rocket and do that, like, shouldn't we just maybe just go to the moon at that point? I just feel that's sort of where I'm like, I don't see the benefit. Who's K Bono? Like, who benefits from some of these conspiracy theories? It doesn't make sense to me.
I think that was your previous answer to the previous question. That's probably been the best answer that I've ever had on this show. It was funny as shit, man. You got me laughing hard there.
Which one was that?
Was it the one you were just talking about? Was like, look, man, we're going to sell globes to the schools and we're going to make $1 million. Yeah.
I don't see the point. Like, I don't think that anyone benefit. If the Earth is flat, fine. If it's not, like, here's the thing. Let's pretend that I'm wrong and the Earth is flat, right? And that comes out tomorrow on the news. Massive conspiracy. Earth is actually flat. Like, I don't even care. I'll just be like, oh, I guess the Earth's flat now. Like, I'm not gonna, well, we got to make those people pay, and I want money for my globe back. Like, that's right. No way.
That's great. I love that. Yeah, no, those were all great answers. So there we have it, folks. Brian James Gage was running the Gauntlet of Five. And,
how'd I do?
Man, there's really no rating, but you had me laugh harder than I think anyone else did. Those were some good answers.
As long as I bring the comedy, that's really all that matters.
That's it, man. I think, I think that, folks, he's not really an author. He's a comedian. So
it's funny. I actually, one of my piano teachers told me that they thought I should be a comedian instead of anything else that I'm doing.
You could do it. You could do all of them. I mean, you're there. You're in LA, so. Yeah,
I just sort of, to be a stand-up comedian, I don't want to give it's giving too much of myself to people. I don't enjoy that. Plus, I'm very scrappy.
Right.
So I would be the guy that would probably get in fistfights on stage. And I'm 47. Fist fighting at 47, like, you missed. You're over.
Yeah.
That's for your 20s.
Right. Yeah, I like it. Man, you're in good shape for 47, brother. You did something. Are you drinking baby blood?
I am drinking baby blood, and I hear that all the time. I don't know, maybe because I sleep so much. I've probably only been awake for like 13 years. Right. So I'm just a shitty looking 13-year-old.
Right. I like that's fair. He's like, no, I'm really not 40. I'm just a shitty looking
13-year-old. That's it.
Well, folks, we have tried to get this thing recorded tonight. This is by far right up there, one of my favorite interviews that I've had this year. You're a great guy, funny. The book.
Oh, thank you so much.
I can't wait to get it in my hand. I know you said you're sending one. And really, I can't wait to see this thing as a movie, man. I'm going to do my best to reach out to people.
if that somehow happens, I was going to offer you something in return that I realized I don't really know what I can offer in return. I suppose I could send you a floral arrangement, like one of those edible flower arrangements.
Yeah,
those are pretty tasty. People seem to like those.
Yeah, those are good. But let's make sure that we're well past any coronavirus type lockdowns, and
Let's do that.
And
If somebody, I just want to be clear, if somebody sent me an edible arrangement, I would never speak to them again. We're done. We're done.
Gonna do like the old Whitman's chocolate, where you get the
it
says when you pick one, and it's horrible.
You and your slimy melon balls. We're done here.
Guys, you can follow him on Instagram, YouTube, Goodreads, and Twitter, all on there. And do you want to give the shouts outs to the specific names on those?
Sure. For the book, it's nosferatuconspiracy.com. Twitter is /NosferatuCon, because they don't allow you to use the whole thing. And then Instagram is nosferatuconspiracy. Brian James Gage is my website. Brian James Gage on Twitter, Brian James Gage on Instagram. And then for my YouTube channel, where I'm trying to post my progress in learning classical piano performance, with some of the videos are okay, but it's a challenging endeavor. But that's on YouTube, and currently I only have 127 subscribers, so they don't let me have my own URL at this point in time. So you can just find it from my website or something if it's something you're interested in.
Yeah, awesome, man. That's great to know. Well, look, man, I've had the pleasure has been all mine. It was a great time. Thank
you so much.
We could have came through 100% clear, but that's something we can work through. People, you got to understand, sometimes life is not going to always hand us that perfect painting. There'll always be a little bit of quirkiness with it. So
the show must go on, my friend.
Always, the show must go. So get out there, look for this book, find it. If you're into vampires, if you're into vampires with a little twist of conspiracy, if you're into history, if you're into blood and gore, check this book out. And let's push this thing, man. I want to see it on Netflix, Hulu, somewhere, or somebody producing it. I'll call up David Ford and see if he's interested in producing a vampire cult classic. So we'll see what's going on. Any last things you want to shoot out to the people here?
No, I guess I just put it back on you and say that I really appreciate you supporting independent artists and giving me a voice on your platform that's really meaningful to me. So thank you very much. And if there's anything I could do in the future to support your show, or because I'll put it on my links, etc., just let me know. But just keep doing what you're doing, man, because you guys are you're the new generation of what I think media is going to transform into. So I admire the effort.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. And we'll keep pushing each other up. And I will definitely get my feelers out there, and I'm going to push this, man. I enjoy it. It's right up my alley. It's my genre. And you're a good guy, man. I mean,
thanks so much.
Like we were saying, you could be a comedian as well. Folks, so we're going to stop stroking each other now, I promise. No, but
yeah.
Brian,
virtual hug.
Virtual hugs. That's all we need to give right now for another 14 days. So as I always do, folks, God bless, stay safe, and have a great night.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.